Quite frankly, I can't wait. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Uplands Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show, live and direct right here on the SHRmedia.com network. Go to SHRmedia.com, quick like a bunny, where you can listen and chat. You got to belly up to the bar. We have kept your seat, and it's great to see you back. Simone, Mary Brockman, Beantown Billy, and 2 viewers. Tonight, Flackbait is going to be your bartender. He pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is in fact lighted right there with the ceremonial Halloween pumpkin in the background with the appropriate accoutrement. And by the way, the lava lamp being lighted means that you can watch the show on the SHR Media Facebook page, YouTube channel, and on Periscope. I got to tell you, we don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all here at the saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the booze is not. All that we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle, and don't forget to tip your waitress. Tonight from the first hour, and now he's not going to be on nearly as long as he was the first time. It's going to be Brandon Straka. And then the rest of the show, I've got a ton of stuff. 1 metric ton. And even if Brandon Straka doesn't answer his phone, because my phone, when I call you, it comes back private number. It doesn't tell you who I am. I know that should come as no shock to you. So, like last time, we'll see if he looks at that and goes, I don't think I ought to be answering that number. Thank God he did. Anyway, when I asked him, he said, you know what, I would love to be on, because he's going to be up to his ass in alligators. Tomorrow he starts the Walkaway March on D.C., and it was, Mary Brockman, very good. Wash your hands before tipping your waitress. Quite excellent. And now there are 3 viewers. I want to tell you this, though. And I want to continue to tell you this. Until November 6th, I think that's 12 days from now, I'm going to be doing my best to point out the obvious. There is great news out there for conservatives. We got to remain positive, and we have to get out and vote. We can't afford to be smug or complacent with the win involving Associate Justice Brett Kavanaugh. This is the time to double down on resolution, to commit to supporting anything and everything that isn't a Democrat, a leftist, or the American media maggots. We can't afford to listen to the bad news that leftists are going to ratchet up and continue to spew about conservatives and our chances in November. We already know they lie. They are biased, and they publish falsehoods with impunity. The American media maggots, they're nothing more than the publishing arm of the Democrats and the leftists. We have to get out. We have to vote red in November. We have to keep the House. We have to keep the Senate. We got to mail in our absentee ballots. We can let absolutely nothing deter us from appearing at the polls on November 6th. No matter the circumstances, no matter the weather, it's not a factor. Leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots absolutely want to destroy conservatives and conservatism. Okay? They want to eliminate us. They want to hurt us politically, and these days physically as well. We can't let this stand. Commitment, resolution, fortitude. We got to stand up for America, and we have to stand up for the U.S. Constitution and its Bill of Rights. Because, quite frankly, if we don't, I don't know who else will. Well, actually, no one else will.
Hello?
Brandon Straka.
Yes.
This is BZ. How are you doing this evening, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, we have the distinct pleasure and the honor of speaking once again to Brandon Straka. He's the creator of the entire Walkaway movement himself, who I'm sure is, at this point, probably just a wee bit stressed because there's so much for him to do right now. So because of that, I mean, I am sure of that. I'm sure that you are in condition 1. You know, it's like condition red. Ah! So, Brandon, because of an absolutely precedent-setting march on D.C. Now, this time as opposed to last time, I know your time is short, but I do have a couple of observations to make and then a couple of questions for you. First, I got to say this. I submit that what I term the American media maggots and what other people call the mainstream media, they fear you right now, sir. You frighten them. And I can tell because they have done their level best to ensure that your march on D.C., as I'm sure you've noticed, is entirely uncovered and unreported. So because of that Brandon Straka, that speaks volumes to me, okay? They are undergoing what I call, they're in PSH mode right now, which is pants shitting hysteria mode.
Okay.
And I believe it's because they fear you. They believe completely that your efficacy is about to go out of bounds. They know that your efficacy is staggering, and because of it, they can't afford to lend you or your movement credence in the slightest. Now, the second observation is that it's obvious you likewise scare the crap out of the leftists and the Democrats because you've managed to identify and then unleash a voting beast that is abandoning the Democrats at a record pace never before experienced in politics. And just like last time, you got to give props where props are due. The third observation is that you have crafted this movement around people who, that is a brilliant idea, because you have given a voice to thousands and thousands of persons who otherwise they didn't have any place to go. They thought they were alone. But they're not alone. You're not alone. We're not alone. So the days of Democrats expecting that any certain strata of people are going to be monolithic in their voting bloc from now on into perpetuity, those days are gone. So thank you again, Brandon Straka, for being on the show, and thank you for creating the Walk Away movement. So please tell the folks about your March on D.C., which starts tomorrow. What's it about? Your social media, and specifically, pointedly, where can people go to donate to your cause, sir?
That was such an epic monologue you just gave. I kind of want to. Can I just sit back and listen?
Well, you can listen to a podcast, I guess.
I really enjoyed that a lot.
Here's the deal, sir. There isn't one thing that I just said that is factually incorrect.
Well, especially the part where you're talking about how awesome I am. Like, that was really good.
Okay, I'll go along with that too. But you got to acknowledge a brilliant idea when you see him, and I've seen one. Well,
thank you. I mean, that was, I felt the need to do a testimonial campaign for a number of reasons. I wanted to step forward and tell my truth initially, just because I had a lot of friends who were other people who were feeling the same way. And it was kind of one of those things where I feel like somebody was just waiting for the first person to get the ball rolling and tell the truth. And then once that happened, we could all kind of bond together, in a way. The other thing is that, what a big catalyst for my change was that after Donald Trump was elected, I kept going on social media and ranting and raving, and nobody would really answer my questions because I was a Hillary supporter, at that time. And
okay.
I kept asking, why did you guys do this? Why did you do this? And nobody would answer me, for months. And then finally, after this one particular rant, somebody did answer me. And it changed the course of my life, and it changed the course of my thinking, having that person reach out to me. And I thought, if more people spoke out, how many other people could be changed as well, So it's just important, I think, to have people use their voice. And that's why I wanted to do a testimonial campaign. But to answer your question, we're doing the Walkway March on Washington this weekend. It actually, it's unbelievable. It kicks off tomorrow.
Yes!
Tomorrow night. The day has come. You said earlier about me being stressed. I'm actually not that stressed. I'm so exhausted that I'm not even stressed.
Okay.
I was just dreaming about getting through the weekend and then checking myself into a hospital and just having a coma induced for a couple of weeks and just sleeping it off. But yeah, so tomorrow night we're doing our gala dinner here at Trump International, and it's going to be amazing. We're going to do kind of like a red carpet, VIP for cocktail hour from 6 o'clock to 7, and then dinner is going to be from 7 to 10 p.m. We have dancing, we have music, and then the main event is going to be Saturday, the March and Rally. We're beginning at John Marshall Park in the National Mall here in D.C.
Okay.
We're going to have an opening rally there starting around noon, and that's going to last about an hour and a half. And then we're going to march from the John Marshall Park to Freedom Plaza. So we are quite literally leaving the Democratic Party and walking towards freedom. So the main rally will be there at Freedom Plaza from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m.
Okay.
And then the whole weekend rounds out on Sunday with our closing brunch with Dinesh D'Souza.
That is so cool. Number one, it's cool that you're going to be in the Trump Plaza. Number two, it's great that you're actually conducting a march. And number three, it's great that you've got Dinesh D'Souza.
It's going to be like a big red pill weekend. You know what I mean? It's like from beginning to end, it's just going to be, the whole thing is going to be like a red pilling experience because even the dinner tomorrow night, yeah, it's going to be fun and it's going to be, like kind of fabulous and whatever. But what I'm really showing people with this dinner is the changing face of the Republican Party. I mean, well over 50% of the attendees, by attendees, I mean the speakers who are going to be speaking throughout the weekend are going to be African-American people, Asian-American people, gay people, straight people. Of course, we have Caucasian people. But I mean, it's like, I want the world to see that this is not the Republican Party that you keep hearing about on, from the liberal media of the old white, straight, male, racist bigots. The world, the party has changed. I think the culture has changed, and that's what we're going to show people this weekend.
As I say, I think it's brilliant. The idea that you had people and that you asked people to give testimonials about the Democrats and what they mean to them and why leaving them is so important. As I said last time, this is a clear indicator to me as to why the Democrats now are not, they couldn't care less about you. If you're not a monolithic voting bloc in perpetuity, you're dead to them. You're just like the mafia. You're dead to me. So the next important question that I have for you, Brandon Straka, is the midterms are in 12 days now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think the walk-away movement and this resulting march on D.C., starting tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, is going to impact the midterms?
It's going to be really interesting to see that. I honestly, I don't know. I mean, I really, truly don't know. What I can tell you is I try to keep my focus on not so much conjecture, but what I know for a fact to be real, which is that the campaign, started with one person, which was me, on May 26th. As of now, we have over 205,000 in our the original group on Facebook. On all social media platforms, we have about 400,000 people who are in the Walkaway campaign. But, if the midterms roll around and we don't see an impressive dent, let's say in minority groups going and voting red, something, if we don't really see an impressive change, trust me, on November 7th, all I'm going to do is roll up my sleeves and work harder going forward, because all that's going to show me is that we have a lot more work to do. I mean, that's what we're going to do. We're going to try harder.
Here's why I wanted to have you on tonight, though I know that you're exhausted as hell. Your movement represents positivity. This isn't a negative movement. This is a positive movement. And I have to tell you, Brandon Straka, I am very positive about you, about the movement. That's why I love having you on the show, about those who embrace walk away. There's lots of positive and exciting things occurring that people need to know about. And you are making, in my opinion, my humble opinion, a massive positive difference in the course of the entire nation. We need good news, and you have it. And that's what I'm impressed with. You didn't go negative. You went positive, and you let people express themselves. That, again, is why I say that's the brilliance of this thing.
Well, yeah, what it really was about kind of giving the power back to the people and giving a voice back to the people. And these are, a lot of them have been maligned for a really long time. A lot of them have been lied about and attacked, and a lot of them haven't really gotten, I think, a fair shake, particularly by, powerful forces like the media, who they don't get to fight back. And through the power of social media and just using the phone that's in their hand, they were able to make videos and get the truth out, and it is positive. I mean, it's very, I actually wrote my speech today for the rally on Saturday, and I was trying to figure out exactly what it was I had to say, and it's a lot. I'm going to be up there for a good 15 minutes saying some stuff. But, one of the things I wrote at the very end was that, this movement was never about hatred for Democrats or hating Democrats.
Yes.
What it was about walking forward towards civility and decency and respect and kindness and love and all of these different things that have gotten so lost, I think, because of what has become common, acceptable part of our culture on the left of this, the name calling and the violence and the vandalism. And, these are the things, yes, this is not a movement of hate. It's a positive movement. It's about moving forward towards positivity and unity and all these things that make America great.
And that I submit that's the big difference. That's why I believe, Brandon Straka, you and your movement, you resonate with people because of that. People who are tired of seeing persons collectively and individually torn apart. That doesn't hack it anymore. That's not the way to go. Quite frankly, I got to tell you this. I think the leftists, the Democrats, and the American media maggots, they have made a very terribly serious error in not factoring in two very, in my estimation, critical issues. Number one, I think we're going to find out in retrospect that your entire walkaway movement is going to end up being a critical factor. And number two, the people that have not yet joined, these are the people who are committed to voting against what the Democrats represent. They're sickened by their recent tactics, but they're still silent, and they're not talking, and they're not giving their political views to anybody. And I think those two factors, with yourself and your movement, and number one,
everything has gone so extreme at this point. Since 2016 and possibly even a little before 2016, everything has gone so extreme.
Yeah.
That what it really has done, I think, it takes a real devout loyalist, I think, at this point to really dig in their heels and defend what the Democrats and the liberal media are doing. I mean, this is why I don't think I would have, if Hillary Clinton had won the election, none of this would be happening. I never would have figured out what was going on. I never would have figured it out. But it's the fact that this man won, which I think really there was some sort of divine intervention there. And this is what I think is waking everybody up, because it's caused the media to go completely off the rails, which in turn is, all of these different groups like, the African Americans and, the LGBT people, they're a little bit slower to get on the ball, but we'll get them there. But it's like, everyone's starting to see that reality is not matching up to what they're hearing about on the news. I mean, if you watch the news, it's as if we should all be hiding in the attic with Anne Frank. But then it's like you walk out the door and you're like, wow, life's actually pretty good. We're actually doing, and they're starting to get it.
You should see the people in chat right now. I'm just going to read a couple of comments. Preach, brother. Talk. Do it. We're tired of being marginalized. You got to keep going. We're the silent majority. Damn right. Keep going. Straight ahead. If he hadn't, if Hillary had won, we wouldn't know what's going on right now. Everybody is absolutely with you. You mentioned it earlier, and I know depending upon what happens after the march, but you mentioned it earlier in the first time I talked to you, when I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago. But tell people, because I think you had great ideas, tell people, absent the conclusion of the walkaway march, you had some great ideas about the future of the walkaway movement. And if you could tell people just some of the thoughts that you had absent this march about where you may be going next.
Well, sure. One of the main things that I've always wanted to do since this began was, once I started seeing the testimonials and seeing how powerful and amazing the stories are of people all across the country, and these are not, professional public speakers or motivational speakers, but these are just real people who are telling their stories. I thought, God, we've got to get these people out on the road. I mean, we've got to take, take take this show on the road and share these stories on college campuses and public speaking engagements and events and rallies, and especially in the education system where there's a couple main areas that I always say that I feel like liberalism has sort of infested itself and I think indoctrinates people, and that's in academia and in the entertainment industry. And okay, now my brain is very tired and I'm going to forget the other one. But
okay.
Let's just say news media, entertainment industry, academia,
Yeah.
things like that. So it's like these young kids going to school, they don't hear a lot of alternative points of view. I mean, we hear stories all the time about students getting Fs on their papers if they deny that there's such a thing as a wage gap, or if they deny that there's such a thing as systemic racism or white privilege. It's like they're forced to go along with these theories because, or else they won't be able to pass their courses. So they don't hear alternative points of view. I mean, these are things that are being indoctrinated and pressed on people. So I think getting these speakers into college campuses or even high schools and saying, look, I understand why you think the way you think. I used to think just like you, and here's everything that's wrong with it. But then, I also want to, I would love us to build a really amazing news room on our website, or, have a website that is dedicated to sort of debunking media myths and also create outstanding video content, much like PragerU does, but kind of geared toward red-pilling people and correcting the lies of the media. Just things like that. Like, I really want I want the Walkaway campaign to really be kind of a source of truth, pursuit of truth that people can trust. And, my roots were always in acting and singing. That primarily, I consider myself an artist, even more than I consider myself the leader of a national movement. But I would like to at some point kind of get back to my roots, and who knows, maybe the Walkaway campaign, if it becomes successful enough, someday we can make movies and TV shows. And I don't mean just conservative movies or conservative TV shows, but I mean just good content that people enjoy watching, that reflects reality and what's going on, that isn't liberally biased or indoctrinating. These are things I would love to do with the campaign going forward.
I think you're right. I think that you'll have potentially a new direction after this coming Monday. And maybe next week you guys sit down and evaluate things, and definitely you'll know if you need to adjust some things after 12 days from now, next Wednesday, when all the returns are in, etc. But the ideas that you have now for the future, absent that, I think are wonderful. Sort of a one-stop shopping place to find out the truth, as opposed to so many other places where it's covered up like a bad, like a crap in a cat box. People just want to cover it up and they don't want to hear about it, any of that. So anyway, okay, I know you're busy. It's late. You got a ton of things to do. So I want to thank you, Brandon Straka, ever so kindly for taking this time to be here in the saloon, for emphasizing to people that, yes, that's the point. That was the whole point of wanting to talk to you today. There is hope. There is hope,
That's
people.
Right.
There's hope in these midterm elections. The conservatives can keep the House. The potential is out there. They can keep the Senate. The potential is out there. Don't go all bleak. Don't go all sad-faced. I mean, Brandon Straka is doing great work here. We're praying for you, bro. We know that you got to get out there. You got lots of work to do. There's a massive, a huge positive message out there that you're creating, and I'm convinced that you really are going to have a very serious impact in just 12 days. So because of that, I got to thank you again, sir. We've been talking to Brandon Straka. Thank you for your time. You go forth and do what I call KATN, sir, which is kicking ass and taking names.
I intend to. Thanks so much for having me. And listen, I love talking to you, so I'm happy to come back anytime.
Thank you ever so kindly. I know you're exhausted. You got a ton of stuff to do. Let me not keep you any further, but thank you for what you do, and thank you for what you've done and what you're going to do in the future. Sir, Brandon Straka.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you, sir. Folks, that was Brandon Straka. I love him coming on. What a great dude. Young guy. with a great message for everyone, and his message is resonating to all sorts of people. It doesn't matter about melanin count or background or even youth, although it's really appealing to a lot of people that aren't Caucasoids. And it's really appealing to a lot of people that are young, and we may be surprised at that. But it's working. And I really do think that it's going to have a huge impression and a huge influence on what's going on. Now, one thing you learn in radio, and I've talked to, let me give you a little prognostication of what I got in the works. With luck and the creek don't rise, I've got a guy named Thomas Paine coming on the show next Tuesday. And Thomas Paine is essentially the guy that created True Pundit. And if you've never been to True Pundit has a cause celeb, shall we say. And True Pundit has a great story. And that's going to be coming to fruition on Tuesday night. Again, fingers crossed that I have him scheduled. And he's coming out with a book on Monday, basically how he defeated. Okay, Senator, these are not the exact same words that are in the book, and I should have a copy of the book up in front of my screen right now, but I don't. But essentially, it's about how Thomas Paine defeated the FBI in his pajamas, and I'll give you just a taste of what happened to him. Because he was writing some things that were a bit against the deep state and not placing the FBI in the best of light, the FBI decided that they were going to raid his home one night and put his wife and children at the pointy end, at the bangstick end of M4s for videos, for DVDs. That wasn't the issue. The issue was what he had been writing and what he was about to expose. So Thomas Paine, at this point, is going to be on my show. I've told him that he can promote the book, but I want to hear his story. I've given him an hour, and we're still back and forth in negotiations to find out if he, and I don't quite know what I can ask him and what I can't ask him. I suggest you go to truepundit.com. And we've discovered since, and I don't believe I'm speaking out of school, because his true name has now been revealed because people threatened to reveal his true name. And essentially what the FBI did is ruin his life. He got fired from his job at Citigroup, and a whole bunch of other things, negative things, terrible things occurred to him. But he's got a story to tell, and it's about the FBI and it's about the deep state. And with his book coming out, I want him to tell the story here. Carrie Baxter Donovan has been significantly important in getting this linkage going. I have to talk to him again between now and then. I've offered him an hour, and then I've also laid this on the table. If you're sufficiently loquacious, you can have the full 2 hours. If your story is such that 1 hour isn't going to do it, I'm going to do what nobody else can do. And you certainly won't be able to hear this anyplace else. I'll give him an hour, and it'll be pretty much uninterrupted except at the top and the bottom of the hour for 5 minutes, and then he can go on as much as he wants and tell everyone what really occurred to him. Because I think, folks, you have a fairly decent idea about what it is that I think of the FBI at these days, because I've worked for them before. I have a pretty good idea how they work. The agents, this is not the issue. It's the people at the top. And as you and I both know, that's pretty much the entire issue with everybody in any organization. It's the people at the top. It's the chiefs and not the Indians. So Thomas Paine, otherwise known as Michael Moore, tentatively is going to be here on next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, by the way, will be 7 days until the midterm elections, which, when you think about it, that's kind of scary, that's kind of frightening, and it's great all in one. As I indicated at the beginning of the hour, from now until the election, my job is to make sure that everybody has all the positive stories they possibly can about what's going on and what's occurring in our lives and our political lives as well. And I'm sorry if I haven't done this already. I'd like to say hello to Mike in chat, Mary Brockman in chat, Dave in chat, Simone in chat, Meantown Billy in chat, and 2 viewers who will not be unmasked here because that's not what we do. We don't unmask people here at all. Also, I want to give some big thanks because these people have been sending me tweets and private messages. There are certain individuals that are in the trucking agency and the trucking industry, I should say, who have told me that they listen at night, and I am greatly appreciative of their listening while they drive. They don't watch on TV because that wouldn't be prudent, but they do listen. So thanks to the hardworking American truckers in the United States. You keep America moving. You keep the goods and services moving all across this great nation of ours. So, kudos to you. Thanks very much. And, of course, kudos for the first entire half hour to Brandon Straka, who, again, I think was kind of cool, said, you know what, dude? If you want to come back or if you want me to come back, I'll do that, okay?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is Sackhead Sean.
And this is Sackhead's Clint.
And Sackhead's BZ.
Join us for a very important SHR Media special report, Election Night, November 6th, as we cover midterm returns live from the SHR Media Studios.
Not only will we have the best live election coverage, we'll have our very own SHR reporters on scene around the nation to keep you immediately updated.
We'll start at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and go until, well, it's over. We may have some choice comments to make along the way.
For the best midterm election night coverage, go to shrmedia.com and watch the show on Facebook, YouTube, and on Periscope. shrmedia.com. Be there.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncle and West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
New show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. on shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplanestalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you're listening to the bloviating Zeppelino, that is I, sitting fast and bulbous behind this chair in the SHR Media Studios, the sumptuous and palatial SHR Media Studios, where we are located 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire left coast. And that happens to be the Bill Mill, the capital and the Capitol building of the state of Fornicalia here in Sacramento, where late at night when I get through with this show at, 10 o'clock Pacific and midnight. Oh, wait, no, 1 a.m. on the East Coast, I go out this door right here to my left. And I can smell gag on the sulfur and brimstone that issues forth from that evil building 2 miles to the west of where I transmit and broadcast right now. I got a ton of great, happy stories coming up. But I haven't done this in a while, and I'm going to read a Kurt Schlichter story. This is his one from Monday, I believe. And this story happens to loop into some information that I can guarantee has not been presented to you about the journalist Jamal Khashoggi affair. And you may be thinking, maybe it passed through your brain. You may have thought to yourself, I wonder if I'm being told all the information that I really need about Jamal Khashoggi and what happened to him and why it's significant and why we need to go to war, apparently, with all of Saudi Arabia. Because if you ask the leftists and the Democrats and the American media maggots, well, why the hell haven't we done that so far? You might want to hold back on that car wash just for a second. Okay, so this is an article. By the way, Dave, I'm going to get back to you on that, where you said your promo. I need to get back to you on that. Here's Kurt Schlichter, and his article is entitled, Annoy Liberals by Refusing to Care About Their Stupid Fake Outrages. And this is from townhall.com. And it goes like this. This may shock you, but I care less that a bunch of foreign barbarians killed a foreign barbarian supporter in a foreign country than I do about illegal alien foreign barbarians here in America killing Americans. A lot less. This is yet another example of my and perhaps your shameless wrong thinking. I reject the elite's fussy paradigm of things that we must pretend matter. I'm going to stubbornly exercise my right not to get exercised over yet another outrage ginned up by people who are determined to manipulate me because it just isn't happening. Hey, Kaiser Schuff, welcome to the show. Good to see you there in chat. Kurt Schlichter continues, as I explain in my hilarious and obnoxious new book, Militant Normals, How Regular Americans Are Rebelling Against the Elite to Reclaim Our Democracy, the elite seems to think it has some kind of Gaia-given right to demand we join in its endless series of 2-minute hates about the outrage du jour. But we're woke, and it's just not happening. We don't care about the climate scam or illegal aliens being sad about having to leave or their cheesy charges against conservative jurists. It's all a lie and a scam. Notice how believing all women sure stopped being a thing the second Kegmeister Kavanaugh got confirmed. Right, Sherrod Pimp Hand Brown. As an aside right here, I put out this, again, perhaps a little bit of an obnoxious meme, meaning that, and it turned out to be true, exactly true, when as soon as Christine Blasey Ford ceased being a useful tool to the Democrats, you never heard another word about her. Except for a happy story involving Chuck Grassley that I've got coming up, but we'll get to that. And continuing with Kurt Schlichter, I just had to make that as an aside. In the current convulsion, our moral and intellectual betters who make up our glorious elite are in a fake frenzy because third world thugs are acting like third world thugs. That Khashoggi guy was a journalist. Damn it. Journalists are special. He wrote for the Washington Post, so he matters. Not like that Kate Steinle girl, who was just some American who got in the way of a bullet fired by an illegal alien who the elite ensured was not deported. Everybody got mad, and then let's cut loose our ally Saudi Arabia, which happens to be the long-term policy goal of the same liberal elite pushing this crisis. Weird how that works. Oh, and dare you mention that Khashoggi cavorted with Hamas and Al-Qaeda types and generally loved radical Islam and hated America. I got more information for you about that right after this article. Kurt continues, I'm not pro-chopping up political opponents, which I only feel the need to state because some willfully obtuse lib jerk is going to claim my refusal to freak out over bad people acting exactly like bad people act means that I support chopping up political opponents. Chopping up political opponents is generally a bad thing, okay? And though I will not hold my breath waiting for the libs to, for example, cancel their holidays in Havana because the Castro clan has butchered tens of thousands of people for preferring tyranny to freedom, liberal outrage, you see, is super selective. It only exists when there's a related liberal policy goal it can support. And as the Steinle family found out, it never exists where it risks disrupting our elite's preferred narrative. I don't care about the Khashoggi caper because I see no reason to join in the faux shock that foreigners are terrible or that the Saudis are so especially terrible that we must abandon a crucial ally against Iran, which hangs more gays from a single crane every day than the Saudis have ever chopped up in their consulates. Weird, but the elite was totally mad about Donald Trump pulling out of the we'll pay you mullahs to get nukes slightly slower deal, and these same people are now demanding we ditch our primary Arab ally against Tehran. I mean, if we were cynical, I'd say this whole imbroglio was a steaming wheelbarrow of crap. I'm sorry, this is BZ laughing as an aside. Schlichter continues, but I'm not cynical. Their motive for trying to destroy the U.S.-Israeli-Saudi alliance was against the mullahs is totally that they care about this sketchy dude who none of us has ever heard before a week or so ago, and Chet agrees. Chet is my unicorn. Oh, and it's all Trump's fault because Trump is magical and omnipotent, and he personally approves Arab hit team operations in Asia Minor. Or maybe it's Jared Kushner who did that. It's hard to know which of the White House masterminds, who we are simultaneously informed are scatterbrained half-wits, how they're pulling the strings around this entire planet. After all, no neo-Dark Age potentate ever murdered anybody until Filoni of Milhouse von Pantsuit lost, right? This whole thing is stupid, and I'm not going to be part of it. I also refuse to care that the president made a crack about that congressman who tossed around that reporter a million years ago. I don't care about that at all. I refuse to pretend that some harmless gag is a declaration of open season on the Fourth Estate, especially when the media is squeezing in giddy delight at lib polls, actual calls for violence and intimidation. It was a joke, and it was kind of funny. And if that horrifies Jim Acosta and the rest of the dancing dillweeds of the press, well, too damn bad. I don't care, Kurt Schlichter writes. And if you think that makes me a bad person, well, good. Then you won't try to hang around with me. See, I reserve the right to decide what I care about. My caring, my choice. And I think I'll care about things that matter to me, not things the liberal snobs care about. I care about the interests of the United States of America more than the interests of foreign countries. I care about Americans not being murdered here more than foreigners being murdered someplace else. I don't care about the media's peeves and their whining. It brought all its misfortune upon itself with its bias, its incompetence, and general scuzziness. I don't care about global warming. I'll drive a gas guzzler if I feel like it. I don't care about someone's preferred pronouns. He or she, pick one. And I don't care about illegal alien sob stories. Go home. I don't care about people who feel unsafe, unhappy, or unloved because of what I think, do, and say. Too bad. I will think, do, and say what I please. I don't care because I don't feel like caring about your pet outrages and can't make me care about your pet outrages. Now, after this article from Kurt Schlichter, and perhaps you're wondering why I haven't really made any mention of this Saudi guy being evidently dismembered and sent out. I don't know, he might have made the cat food truck somewhere in some Middle Eastern country, who knows. But I also found a lot of things out that the American media maggots, shock of shocks, the leftists, the Democrats, and the American media maggots aren't telling you about this guy, Khashoggi, because it doesn't fit their meme. It doesn't fit their rant. This is a great article that and I'm not going to tell you where, but I've thrown some extra choice cuts from BZ and my thoughts into. But this guy is giving you truth, and I went into this article, and yes, I did go on the internet, on my favorite search engine, and discover that, oh my gosh, you know what? This guy is right. And oh my gosh, the American media maggots are not telling you the full truth. I wonder why that could be. I think you know why it is. This is a great article, and it's entitled, What the Media Isn't Telling You About the Jamal Khashoggi Affair. Stop. Once I read that article, once I read that headline, I knew I had to read further. Because when you equate what the American media maggots are saying and writing to what they're not telling you, I want to read that article. This is by Gordon Schnacktel. I'm not going to say anything about his name. The legacy media isn't telling you the full truth about Jamal Khashoggi, the Saudi exile who is now dead after he was last seen entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. His disappearance created a media firestorm, resulting in tensions between the United States and its traditional Middle East partners. Now, we've been told that Khashoggi, who was living in the U.S. for the past year, was a voice for reform and democracy in a Middle East that is in desperate need of such individuals, right? But if you look closer at Khashoggi's past activities, this reveals a guy with an extremely regressive, and this is what I went to go find out, an extremely regressive, anti-Western worldview with a consistent pattern of supporting fringe Islamist movements in the region. Wow, you haven't heard that before, have you? Not in the American media maggots. Why would that be? Of course, no one deserves to be harmed for their views. However, Khashoggi's disappearance, air quotes, actually his death at this point, doesn't give the foreign and domestic media a green light to play fast and loose with the facts, just like they're doing. So Khashoggi, let's talk about Khashoggi, the journalist. Simone says she's got to go to bed, got to put the kiddies to bed. Good night, Simone. Thanks for being here tonight. Let's talk about Khashoggi, the journalist. Pretty much the entirety of the legacy media, what I call the American media maggots, have attached a wildly misleading journalist, air quotes, journalist, label to Jamal Khashoggi. Okay, he was once a journalist for several state-controlled Gulf media enterprises. Khashoggi hasn't been anything resembling a journalist for quite some time. Prior to his disappearance, Khashoggi was an opinion writer for the Washington Post's Global Opinion section. He was also working, listen to this, he was also working with Islamists tied to the Muslim Brotherhood to create an organization called Democracy in the Arab World Now, otherwise known as DAWN. So why does this journalist label continue to hang heavily on Khashoggi? We know this. We know that Saudi Arabia's rivals like Turkey, Qatar, Iran, they want to undermine the U.S.-Saudi alliance by any means that they possibly can, any means necessary. The optics are much worse for Riyadh if the Saudi monarchy is found to have executed a journalist rather than Islamist activist. Stop right there. Stop right there. That's the point. That's why the American media maggots have picked this up. Do well on your pizza there, Dave. Heat that bad boy up. And Mary Brockman, you can hear the rest tomorrow in podcast. Thanks for being here. This is the point. Things go worse for Saudi Arabia if this guy Khashoggi is a journalist as opposed to what he is. He is an Islamist activist, period. Domestically, though, perhaps the media stubbornly insists on calling Khashoggi a journalist because it helps, this is again true, it helps to advance the false media narrative that President Trump is waging a false war, or waging what they call a war, on the free press. So because that resonates with the media themselves, legacy reporters have been leveraging that Khashoggi journalism crap to take shots at the president's rhetoric. Lee Smith over at The Federalist. By the way, Lee Smith wrote one of about 3 what I consider to be seminal books on the Middle Eastern version of Islam called The Strong Horse. Lee Smith, The Strong Horse. Go to your library and get it. You will understand more about the Middle Eastern version of Islam if you read Lee Smith's The Strong Horse. There's also another book that I highly recommend if you're not interested in reading the Quran or the Hadith like I have, and I'm sure Dave Milner has in chat. But another great book to read to understand the mindset of the Middle Eastern version of Islam as practiced in reality is by a guy named David Price, P-R-Y-C-E, Jones. David Price Jones, called The Closed Circle. David Price Jones, The Closed Circle. 2 excellent books to give you fabulous insight as to the workings, the mental workings of the Middle Eastern version of Islam as practiced, the way it really is, the reality of that situation. So that same Lee Smith over at The Federalist points out that the nation's foreign policy, that's what this is about. And then they talk about, Khashoggi, the reformer. Jamal Khashoggi was never a reformer in the sense that he wanted to advance individual rights and overall freedoms in the Middle East. Bullshit. In fact, all of the evidence points to the reality that he was a regressive thinker and a dedicated Islamist who wanted to move Saudi Arabia to a more cleric-led society. As an early ally to al-Qaeda founders Osama bin Laden and Abdullah Azzam, Khashoggi has been an Islamist for decades. While he may have disagreed with his old friend bin Laden about how to impose an Islamic State on the world, the two shared the same end game. While bin Laden preferred a much more aggressive strategy, Khashoggi appeared to be a supporter of the Muslim Brotherhood model of governance advanced by groups like Hamas and the short-lived Muslim Brotherhood regime in Egypt. Hamas and the Morsi regime in Egypt were elected through the democratic process. Yet, almost immediately after seizing power, the Brotherhood-aligned groups sought to impose extra-constitutional measures that would tighten the grip on power and ensure that there would never be another election. Woohoo! Great for Egypt. Khashoggi's democracy project is nothing more than a facade that would allow for the empowerment of Islamic and Islamist actors. From Muslim Brotherhood and its allies, history shows us the first victorious election campaign, imagine that, quickly became the very last election. Now we hear about Khashoggi, the man of peace. Right? He's a man of peace, so the American media maggots say. Today's Middle East reform movements are largely backed by individuals and leaders who have rejected calls for perpetual Islamist warfare. Those in the U.S. allied reformer camp, like Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, and UAE Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed, have preferred to focus on bolstering patriotism, combating Islamism, pursuing secularization, and modernization. Khashoggi, on the other hand, has sought to drag the Islamic world into endless conflict. So, as is typical for many Islamists, Jamal Khashoggi had a serious bloodlust when it came to violence against the state of Israel. Now do you start to see more of the connections? The American media, the leftists hate Israel. Democrats hate Israel. The American media maggots hate Israel. And so they love Khashoggi because he's a journalist, right? And he's soft-spoken. Khashoggi had a serious bloodlust when it came to violence against the state of Israel. He expressed these violent aims in a 2014 piece for the Muslim Brotherhood-tied Middle East Monitor, where he wrote that he hoped one day Islamic nations would join the U.S.-designated terrorist group Hamas in its campaign to destroy Israel. Hey, good times! Great person to support, American media maggots. This is the guy you love. In another piece, poor guy Khashoggi that was killed. So you have to ask, okay, well, what's next? What's next? Of course, violence is never the answer to political disagreements, and that's a clear message to all of the Middle Eastern partners. The Khashoggi affair, that's no reason to destroy all the progress that the Trump administration has made in supporting historic, measurable Middle East reform efforts. The White House must continue following the pro-reform, and this is the author speaking now, not me. I'm going to weigh in just a minute. The White House must continue following the pro-reform message articulated in in his Riyadh speech in May 2017. To abandon reform now would empower America's adversaries, strengthen Islamic and Islamist movements, and jeopardize our Middle East allies. Here's the point that I'm getting to. As usual, in the Muslim world, lies abound. Okay, and clarity is difficult to find. There are tons of conflicting interests which can change on a yearly basis, even a week-to-week basis, and a daily basis. One of those things, however, that doesn't change is that we're going to go on a break. Come right back, everybody.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
This is Sackhead Sean.
And this is Sackhead's Clint.
And Sackhead's BZ.
Join us for a very important SHR Media special report, Election Night, November 6th, as we cover midterm returns live from the SHR Media Studios.
Not only will we have the best live election coverage, we'll have our very own SHR reporters on scene around the nation to keep you immediately updated.
We'll start at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and go until, well, it's over. We may have some choice comments to make along the way.
For the best midterm election night coverage, go to shrmedia.com and watch the show on Facebook, YouTube, and on Periscope. shrmedia.com. Be there.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York. the lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And you're listening to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show, live and direct radios. It's about 5 minutes after 9 o'clock on the left coast. It's about 5 minutes after midnight. It's tomorrow on the East Coast. And it's 1763 and 129.726,535 minutes in Bolivian time. I could never understand Bolivian time. I give up. Okay. In the break, I get notifications from all sorts of news groups. And that's how I keep my finger on the button of news so that I know, especially during the show, if something breaking comes. Well, something breaking did, and it's really stupid. I'm going to tell you that in just a minute, but I want to finish this thing about Khashoggi and about the Middle East, and why, just like Kurt Schlichter said, and why I went into the article after Kurt Schlichter's article, is the fact that, like Kurt Schlichter, let's be honest, I couldn't give a crap that this guy was killed. And that goes to this. Are you going to tell me, leftists, Democrats, American media maggots, that you believe all the words that come out of any nation state in the Middle East? If you do, you're stupid. Hello? It's like, are you really that ravingly stupid that you think that Saudi Arabia isn't going to lie to us. And that, yes, we may have to actually sit down and parse the words of Saudi Arabia. They've lied to us before, and they'll lie to us again. And we're shocked. The American media maggots are shocked. They're shocked. They're shocked, I tell you, that the Saudis lied right to our face. This has never happened before. Bullshit. And the answer is yeah. Yeah, they really are that stupid. Like I said, in the Muslim world, lies abound, and clarity is like mud. You're going to find mud, but you're not going to find much clarity, okay? The conflicts change on a year-to-year basis, a month-to-month basis, a week-to-week basis, and frequently hour-to-hour. You got to remember that the Middle Eastern version of Islam, as practiced in reality, is based in tribal, nomadic, Bedouin beginnings. There's a saying that is etched into my brain that I don't even have to really read it, but it is absolutely true, and it's emphasized by those two books I told you about earlier. The Closed Circle by David Price Jones and The Strong Horse by Lee Smith. And that's this. I can read it right off, I can remember it right off the top of my brain housing group. The saying is this: I against my brothers. I and my brothers against my cousins. I and my brothers and my cousins against the world. Do you get that now? That's how the Middle Eastern version of Islam works. It's very simple. It's not that hard to compute. So that we're going to go to war potentially with Saudi Arabia over a guy who was an Islamist that I don't know who he pissed off, and quite frankly, I couldn't care less. But that we're going to benefit. What do we use Saudi Arabia for? Well, let's see. Let's look. It's a base for our operations, and they hate Iran, and what do they produce for us? And yeah, 15 of them were 9/11 attackers. I get that. But they too can be a useful tool when we need them, and we don't have to go dancing to strings anytime we don't want to. And is it worth dancing to these strings at this point? No, it's not. It just isn't. It's just not worth it right now. But what else do they produce? They don't. It's not like they're giving us uranium. What do they do? Oh, come on, folks. Think about it for a second. They give us intelligence. Because when these actors work against their purposes, they don't mind turning that information over to us. And guess what? We use it. So get off all your damn fucking high horses, American media maggots, leftists, and Democrats, that you want to start bombing Saudi Arabia or cut them off, or you want to give them terrible sanctions and take away all that. Fine. You're going to do that over one media guy who really wasn't even a journalist. And he certainly wasn't for Western civilization. But the thought that a journalist was killed and then the Saudi Arabians make up this crazy-assed excuse that a 5-year-old wouldn't believe. And you're going to believe him. Do you think anybody in D.C. believes that? They've got to be political, and they're playing politics, and that's exactly what this is all about. It's more politics. Khashoggi died. You know what? I couldn't care less. Oh, well. Just like Kurt Schlichter said, he's another barbarian killed by another barbarian. Move on. Nothing to see here. This is the story that I was going to tell you about. Dave says, yeah, he was an opinion columnist. Right. And Dave says they give us the intel they want us to give. Yeah, that's why we have these big agencies to go through and sift this stuff and collate the media from any number of sources. You never take one piece of intelligence in and of itself. You confirm or deny by any number of other makes and models of intelligence and services that you utilize to get. That's called take. The take that you get has to be analyzed, and that's why God created analysts. And the other thing Dave said, these media people think their lives are worth more than anyone else's. That's true. That is a true statement. That's how they believe. Okay, I gotta go here. If you want to laugh, gird your loins. I hope you're sitting down, because this is another stupid damn left. I know he'd get MSNPC. Anyway, it's the headline is, and consider the source, okay? Consider the source of this statement and who's writing it. MSNPC is the source, and the specific source is, this is from the headline, Chuck Todd. I fear the Russians could be behind the mail bomb scare. I have this fear that it could be some Russian Operation 2 designed to do what's happening now, Todd said. NBC's Chuck Todd says he fears the Russian could be responsible for the mail bomb scare that's targeted top officials in the Democrat Party, as well as CNN and actor Robert De Niro. Bobby De Niro was affected on Thursday. Quote, I have this fear that it could be some Russian Operation 2 designed to do what's happening now, Chuck Todd said. Todd added that we shouldn't rule out that possibility. We shouldn't rule out that possibility that it's the Russians. And that the mail bomb scare is dividing the country before going to break. Todd made the comments during the segment on MSNPC's Meet the Press Daily about how the extreme political rhetoric in American politics has divided the nation, and how it could be responsible for this mail bomb scare. Russia responsible for the mail bomb scare. Yeah. Okay. Great. How about we do this? How about we move right along, shall we? Because we're already in the second hour. And I have to admit, I've got some great stories, positive stories, good stories, that unless I get my ass rolling, I'm not going to complete. And what the hell, I've got 40 tabs up here anyway. I'm not going to complete half of them anyway. But you got to know about them. Oh, wait a minute. You know, if I had a producer, what you would have heard is this.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
But I am the producer, and you did hear that, because it's time for happy stories. Lots of happy stories that I have for you tonight. This is from PJ Media. The headline goes from Roger L. Simon, and this goes to Brandon Straka's positivism and his positive outlook on what's coming up tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the March on D.C., the hashtag #WalkAway March on D.C. The headline is, Kanye's not alone. Blacks are deserting the Demorats. In the midst of the Kavanaugh madness, a fascinating development passed relatively under the table and under the radar recently. Constant drumbeat from the press that Trump is a racist somewhere south of George Wallace. Somebody isn't buying it, and it's not just Kanye West. If this number grows just a little bit, the Democrat Party is in deep trouble. Guess what? In sight. Wait, this is why I am the producer. The Democrat Party is in deep trouble. The party relies for its electoral power on overwhelming support from African Americans, a dependency in itself inherently racist and suffused with reactionary identity politics. Without the black vote, the Dems might as well rename themselves the Celluloid Party and run on Hollywood agents for mayor of Malibu. It's their best chance for success. Wow. Roger L. Simon, nicely played. Nicely done, sir. No wonder Maxine Waters hates Trump so much. No wonder Snoop Dogg has his nose so far out of joint that he's attacked Kanye West with that old hoary cliche, Uncle Tom. Come on, Snoop, you can do better than that. You're a creative artist. Actually, it's a dead giveaway. Today's Demorats are the natural heirs of George Wallace. Segregation now, segregation forever. Only their brand of segregating means segregated dorms at Harvard. Did you know that dorms at Harvard are segregated? And a blacks-only graduation ceremony is available there. Talk about reactionary. Is that what Martin Luther King wanted? Give me a break. So who am I to say that as a white man you might ask. Well, nobody, but I did live in a rooming house owned by MLK's cousin in Sumter, South Carolina in 1966, working for, of course, integration as a Northern agitator civil rights kid, 22 years old. What happened to the civil rights movement after that became increasingly depressing, increasingly exploitative, and increasingly mired in victimology over the years? In short, what happens to so many idealistic movements? So bravo, Kanye, for helping to right the ship. That's one positive thing, I'd say. Do you think there are more? Yeah. This came out today. This is a happy story. Chuck Grassley from the Senate Judiciary Committee sends a criminal referral for attorney Michael Avenatti and Kavanaugh accuser. This was, to me, great news. Michael Avenatti says he's going to get his revenge because of it, and that, oh my God, they've opened the wrong door, just like he said about everything before, though that's never turned out to be true. In fact, I have two happy stories about this. Subsequently, about Michael Avenatti. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, though, yet, BZ, right? Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley said Thursday he's referred attorney Michael Avenatti and his client Julie Swetnick, who accused Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh of sexual misconduct, for criminal investigation regarding a potential conspiracy to provide false statements to Congress and obstructed its investigation. Avenatti, who is also a potential 2020 Democrat presidential candidate and works as the attorney for porn star Stormy Daniels, by the way, the person that Tucker Carlson calls the CPL, otherwise known as the creepy porn lawyer. I like that. Anyway, Avenatti represented Swetnick, who accused Kavanaugh during confirmation proceedings of being involved or present at gang and train rapes at high school parties in the 1980s, and he denied it. So what happened? Chuck Grassley penned a letter to Attorney General Jeff Sessions and the FBI Director Christopher Wray today, claiming Swetnick and Avenatti's allegations were leveled at a suspicious time. And so that has started. Then there's another good story that you're not hearing about. Trump's approval rating tops Obama's midterm numbers, a poll says. And, you know, we got to take polls with a grain of salt or perhaps the entire bucket of salt. But I also like you to hear about the polls that portray things not as the American maggots portray things to you of his presidency, according to a new poll. The source is always important on these, and how you pen and craft your questions is equally important. But this is an NBC News Wall Street Journal poll that showed Trump's approval rating at 47%, the highest figures the president has posted in that poll. Obama's 2010 approval ratings for about the same time period was 45%. Did you hear about that story? No. I bet you haven't. Then there's another story. There's this. And this, again, goes hand in hand, I believe, with the things that you're not hearing. But this happens to be a truism, one that you already knew, but it's a reality that needs to be factored in to how you perceive the world and how the American media maggots, the leftists, and the Democrats want you to perceive the world. Two entirely different things. This is from, of all places, the San Francisco Chronicle in the Bay Area. The headline is, despite rampant voter enthusiasm, the reality is many people just don't plan to vote in November. Let's go back to Mr. Helms. Mr. Helms was BZ's civics teacher in high school. Dave Milner says, pizza time. That means your pizza's done. Good eating, Dave. Mr. Helms said, and I quote, and I will, if there's one thing that this is the one thing that I take out of high school, amongst a couple of others. Mr. Helms said, Democrats don't win elections, Republicans lose them. So what that means, and the way I want to consistently emphasize it to you, is winning this election is within our capacity, our capability. We can do this thing, because here's an article that says most people just don't plan to vote. Well, what has been said historically about just the positive thing about showing up? Just show up to work. Just show up to the polls. Bing! Make your vote. Interest in the midterm election is at a fever pitch in much of the country, with both Democrats and Republicans far more passionate than they've been in more than a decade. Could this be? This is, by the way, comes from a Tennessee article that they're quoting. Could this be that Tennessee's Montgomery County shows up to vote? Located northwest of Nashville along the Kentucky border, this county often has one of the lowest voting rates in the state. In a state that often has one of the lowest voting rates in the country, and in a country that has one of the lowest voting rates in the world, trailing most developed nations. So that's a clue. And this is from the Chronicle, or the SF Chron, quoting a Tennessee article. So they already have concerns. Here's another poll. This is from the Washington Examiner. This is from Zogby. And I'm giving you these polls because you're not hearing about them. And you have to take all of this stuff in totality, of course. You never can take one piece of factoid or one piece of evidence in and of itself, unless you're a moron. And the people that are listening to me right now are far from that. The article in Washington Examiner says pollster Zogby, Dem House win. A Democrat. Let me be specific, because this is why I wanted to read this to you. A Democratic House win, not a Senate win. A Democratic House win is, quote, far from certain and elusive. And the Senate is nearly impossible. This week's White House report card finds President Trump riding high after the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court, buoyed by reports that Democrats have not locked down control of the House. But that's not what you're hearing. Let's move right along. Here's another story. This is from CNBC. This is a CNBC survey. Let me go over here and get over to this story. Here we go. CNBC survey. Soaring economic optimism points to, quote, no blue wave in 2018. Soaring economic optimism means that it's unlikely the 2018 midterms will be a wave election. Remember that, very important. America is experiencing a record-breaking era of good feelings, economically speaking. Optimism about the economy, measured by Americans who are optimistic about current conditions in the future, hit an all-time high in CNBC's All-American Survey, the Financial News Network reported. That's another happy story. So you don't take these things in isolation. You take them in contiguity. Did I just make up a word? I think maybe I did. Hand me my Funkin' Wagnalls. This is from the New York Times. This is what, Dave writes, don't believe polls. Right? But the other thing is, you can learn a lot about the trends of these polls by reading about them, because it reveals the thinking of the people that craft the polls, because polls generally are a reflection of the entity that makes them. What did Stalin say about voting? The power doesn't lie in the voter. The power lies in the people that count the votes. You have to take all of this information in totality. And that's why I give it to you, so that you can make decisions by yourself as an individual and make good choices for you, your friends, your family. That's the point. And a lot of this is positive. That's the thing you're not going to hear from anybody else. I want to continue to emphasize the positive, because there's so much positive stuff out there that nobody's telling you about, like Brandon Straka. That's why that dude's going places. And I think he's going to have a very serious impact in 12 days. If you're on the East Coast, 11 days from now. This is from the New York Times. Bernie Sanders, stumping for Democrats, says a blue wave in the midterms is not assured. Okay. Let me ask you, what do you get out of that? I'll tell you what I get out of that. This is foreshadowing. This is mind prep. From Ames, Iowa. It was hard to miss him in the homecoming parade. The band was booming, the floats were floating, and there he was in the middle of it all, hands waving, hair flying. "Hey, Bernie," somebody shouted from the sidewalk. "How you doing?" he shouted back. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont has not yet announced he's running, but for several blocks in his college town on Sunday afternoon, he was certainly marching. From the front of a group of Iowa State College Democrats, Mr. Sanders, widely assumed to be preparing another presidential candidacy, inspired cheers and chants, his mere presence whipping up the kind of political excitement this early voting state knows so well. But if Democratic euphoria was the theme of the day, Mr. Sanders also sounded a bit cautionary about the party's prospects in the midterm elections in November 6th. This tells you a lot. Thanks, Dave, for giving me kudos with regard to Brandon. But if Democratic euphoria was the theme of the day, Mr. Sanders also sounded a cautionary tale about the party's prospects. He said, quote, "I happen not to believe that there's going to be this great blue wave," he said earlier on Sunday at an event in Fort Dodge in north central Iowa. "I happen to believe that on election night, which party controls the U.S. House will come down to a very few seats." So why are these people saying this? That's why I continue to give you these good stories. Stories that you're not being told. There's this portrayal on the left of what the American media maggots want you to hear and believe is happening in your world. But it's not reality. I'm giving you reality. You make whatever decision you make about the information that I give you, because I give you things that the American media maggots don't. Here's another story. Before we go to the bottom of the hour break, I got about another minute. Top Democrats urge caution on blue wave in order to temper expectations. Top Democrats are working to manage expectations about a blue wave sweeping the party into power on Capitol Hill, urging caution about those predictions amid fresh signs that the midterms could be much closer than anticipated. Democrat National Committee Chairman Tom Perez said last Monday, that he doesn't use the term blue wave to talk about a possible victory for his party, even though House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, who has her eyes on the Speaker's gavel once again, said just days ago that they could be looking at a Democrat tsunami. Perez said, quote, "We always knew this election was going to be close. I don't use that term, blue wave. I always talk about the need for blocking and tackling. I always talk about the need for organizing to make sure you're leading with your values." Stop and think about that for a second. Irony, hypocrisy, table for a couple million, please. I always talk about the need for organizing to make sure you're leading with your values. Here's a Democrat talking about leading with his values. And that's how we've been winning. That's how we've been winning throughout this year and throughout 2017. That's how the Democrats have been winning throughout this year and throughout 2017. Their values. Right?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Values.
This is Sackhead Sean.
And this is Sackhead's Clint.
And Sackhead's BZ.
Join us for a very important SHR Media special report, Election Night, November 6th, as we cover midterm returns live from the SHR Media Studios.
Not only will we have the best live election coverage, we'll have our very own SHR reporters on scene around the nation to keep you immediately updated.
We'll start at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and go until, well, it's over. We may have some choice comments to make along the way.
For the best midterm election night coverage, go to shrmedia.com and watch the show on Facebook, YouTube, and on Periscope. shrmedia.com. Be there.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic, concealed carry, and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Well, that's it. It's the final segment tonight here on the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Hope you've enjoyed it. The first half hour was Brandon Straka. Really enjoyed him dropping by and allowing me to call him. And I've got more good news, more good stories. And Dave says the pizza was good. Good to hear. Good to know. I happened to notice this. This was the cover of the newest Newsweek, which I think is going completely digital if it hasn't already. Every once in a while I see a Newsweek cop. And it's got a big photo of Vladimir Putin on it. And it says, Putin wants your vote. So what does this indicate to you? I'll tell you what it indicates to me. This is called cope posting. I don't know if you've heard this term before. Cope posting is a foreshadowing of what may occur. In other words, what this is saying, not subliminally, but to people that are interpreting this, because this is the way that they want you, the American media maggots and the LDAM, want you to interpret this is, if we lose, it's because of Russia again. Are you fucking kidding me? And the answer is no. No, I am not kidding you. That's exactly the thought that Newsweek wants you to take out of this. If we lose again, just like 2016, it wasn't anything we did or didn't do on the Democrat side, on the LDAM side. No, it was all because of things extraneous, vaporous, nebulous things that we had no influence over. We just couldn't. How can we control? We can't control Russia. No one can control Russia. That's why I have what I call another in a series, I should say, of reasons why I have guarded optimism about November 6th. And I think you should too. And I emphasize, mail in your absentee ballot. I did already. Checked off all the things that I wanted to check. By the way, guess what BZ has done for the past 3 years in his local and presidential and other elections? Does BZ take his ballot and put it in a mailbox with his absentee? No. BZ goes down to the county election board center, to the office, walks in the door after having parked his Kraut car outside, his gas-guzzling Kraut car, which goes really fast, outside, walks in and looks for somebody at the front desk and says, hey, this is my ballot. Would you take this, please? And they say, yeah. And then I look at the name of the person, because where I turn this in, they have a name tag on, so I make a little mental note, and then I go outside and write it down, and the time and the day and to whom I physically handed my ballot over to. And that way I don't trust the post office. I don't trust anybody that's a middleman between me and my vote. I know to whom exactly I handed my ballot, and on what day and what time should there be any issue about it whatsoever. So I find that very interesting about Putin. They're setting up their excuses early. And again, I'm not portraying this information to you in an individual level. I'm saying what you need to do is you need to take this all into consideration in your wheelhouse in totality. Because individually, it doesn't mean much. Collectively, it tends to give you a big arrow as to where things might go. Not saying they're gonna, just saying they might. And that these are indicators along the path and the journey along the way. Here's an opinion piece by Suzanne Venker. And boy, if she hasn't caught crap over this, I'm sure she will. I'm sure she has already. This opinion piece, which is from the Washington Examiner, says, why Trump and the GOP will win suburban women voters like me. Heresy. That's heresy. To say that, to write that, much less, to think that, much less say it or write it. There appear to be concerns that President Trump's choice to call Stormy Daniels a horseface will cause him to lose suburban women voters in November. She continues and she says, he won't, it won't, and here's why. First, there's the assumption that suburban women, again, listen to what I've been saying. The assumption that suburban women are a monolithic. They're a monolith. We are not. We are as diverse in our opinions as any other group of Americans. Second, there's an even greater assumption that we'll be so offended by Trump's behavior towards women that we'll finally say, enough. But here's the thing. Trump's boorish behavior is not specifically aimed at women. That's his modus operandi towards any person, male or female, who attacks him. Guess what? That's exactly correct. Indeed, the man doesn't discriminate at all. There's no reason for women in suburbia or anywhere else to feel slighted due to their sex. Do women voters actually like Trump? Now, that's hard to answer, but I believe Heather McDonald said it best. I view Trump as an incredibly painful dilemma. I support his policies, but deplore his personality. I don't think he's a racist or a sexist. I just think he's the worst possible example of an adult male. He is thin-skinned, gratuitously vindictive, and opposite of magnanimous. Now, I would tend to disagree with that. I know that I have seen Trump be magnanimous on numerous occasions. She continues, I agree wholeheartedly, and I feel confident that my suburban women friends do too. We can separate, meaning they have intelligence, okay? People are intelligent. They are not a monolith. They are not monolithic. And don't vote that way. And I think we're going to find out that's true November 6th. We can separate the caliber of the man himself from the job the man is doing. Do we wish his personality was different? Absolutely. But it isn't. So we have to make do with what we've got. And what we've got is working. That's what I've said. Deeds, not words. I go by what Donald Trump does for me and does for America, does for the United States. And his policies and his actions, which is how I gauge him and his efficacy, that's how I rate Donald Trump. Deeds, not words. Suburban women voters are smart enough to see them for themselves. Much to the media's dismay, we don't fall for their portrayal of Trump as a bigoted misogynist. We see through that rhetoric, and we stay focused on what he brings to the table despite his flaws. College-educated women want safety, security, and health care protections very much along with financial and economic health for themselves and for our country. Trump tweeted on Wednesday, quote, I supply all of this far better than any Democrat for decades, actually. That's why they'll be voting for me, indeed. And that's it. That was her story. Very, very succinct. Dave Milner says in chat, yeah, policy. Here's another story that you didn't hear, but it's a happy story. This is from hotair.com. Run by Ed Morrissey. Great guy, a friend of Dwayne Patterson, and also, by the way, a friend of Jeff Dunnett's. And if you're not listening to the Jeff Dunnett Show every Wednesday, you really should, right here on shrmedia.com. This is from Hot Air. So much for that American Bar Association review of Kavanaugh, because you can be sure that a negative ABA review of Brett Kavanaugh is going to be used against him if the left takes over the House, because they've said quite plainly, we're coming after Brett Kavanaugh, and we're gonna slash and eviscerate him as much as we possibly can. Well, apparently they're not going to be using the ABA in order to achieve those goals. It was written in Hot Air. There was a time back during the Kavanaugh, boy, I should have pre-read this, the Kavanaugh apocalypse, Kavanaugh apocalypse. I have not been drinking, okay? I swear. Tonight, that's a later story. Anyway, when liberals were pinning their hopes on a new review of Justice Brett Kavanaugh's qualification by the American Bar Association, or the ABA, the group originally gave him a rating of well qualified, but agreed to review new material following the accusations brought against him during the end of the confirmation process. So this analysis is handled by the ABA's standing committee, but now a representative of that organization has declared the process was concluded with Kavanaugh's confirmation. This is important, and this lends another reason as to why the Democrats are going to find it very difficult to attempt to skewer sitting Associate Justice Brett Kavanaugh. The quote is, the American Bar Association, ABA, will not revoke its well-qualified rating for Justice Brett Kavanaugh's nomination to the Supreme Court after allegations of sexual and professional misconduct prompted the group to reopen its review of Kavanaugh's record. An unnamed ABA official told CNN that the ABA rules provide that the review process should close with the nominee's confirmation. Per the published policy and historical practice of the Standing Committee on the Federal Judiciary, once a justice or judge is confirmed, the Standing Committee's rating process is closed. And they're not going to change or revoke Associate Justice Brett Kavanaugh's rating as well qualified. Jam it up your sphincter, leftists. That's not going to happen. Here's another story by the revered Jeff Dunitz. This is from his site, lidblog.com. Fraud. GOP Never Trumper women's group backed by billionaire Democrat. Imagine that. Let's read the story by Jeff Dunitz. A group which started out as Republican Women for Hillary, and that claims to be made of and for Republican women who hate Donald Trump, has been outed as a vanity project funded by a billionaire Democrat who is a white man. The group, called Republican Women for Progress, is a Washington, D.C.-based nonprofit purportedly founded by Jennifer Perotti Lim and Megan Malloy. However, hope you're sitting down, the sole financial backer of the group is billionaire Democrat Reid Hoffman, a venture capitalist and the co-founder of LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, you might want to have second thoughts, because if you start paying to LinkedIn, now you know where it's going. According to the Never Trump Group's filings, Hoffman wrote a check for $400,000 in September. So, $500,000. Yeah, that's called a clue as to where those things are going. Here's another story. This is from the Toronto Sun. And you suspected that Democrat policies, actions, violence are having results. And of course, the results are exactly what the Democrats are wishing for. People are going to the Democrats like crazy, like they never have before, because they love the messaging and the policy and the antics. Come on, they're just antics of people that support the Democrats. Violence? Nah, there's no violence. Come on, it's all behalf of the people on the right. This is a story from the Toronto Sun, not known necessarily to be leaning to the right a whole lot. Malcolm, more and more people are saying no to the PC mob. PC mob. Oh, there's that bad word again. Mob. What did President Trump say recently? Jobs, not mobs. I got to agree with him. And what are we seeing south of our border? More Democrat solicited and loving mobs. Because if the Democrats didn't want these mobs to succeed, you would have heard the Democrats disavow what's occurring down south and this massive invasion, what is typified as a caravan, but it's not. It's a mob of invaders approaching the United States southern border. If there's one thing we can agree on, it's that political correctness has gone too far. A new study from the international organization More in Common showed a whopping 80% of people think that political correctness is a problem. The study focuses on the United States, but I wager the numbers are similar in Canada. Every day there are stories in the news about social media mobs going after someone for saying the wrong thing or demanding that people lose their job or their platform for saying things that other people don't like. This has a chilling impact on freedom of speech. It impedes our ability to think, to discuss new ideas, to work through problems, to rightfully criticize things we don't like, and to try to make our society a better place. Political correctness, and people are getting tired of mobs. Can't say necessarily that they're getting tired of jobs. This is also interesting. I think I already told you about this. Not long ago, I think it was last week, a judge dismissed a defamation lawsuit brought by Stormy Daniels against President Trump, and that rules that Michael Avenatti is responsible for attorney fees.
This is a Fox News alert, and what appears to be a huge win tonight for President Trump. A judge has just dismissed a defamation lawsuit brought against him by adult film star actress Stormy Daniels. The judge ruling that Daniels is liable for the president's attorney's fees. The president's legal team says, quote, in a statement, no amount of spin or commentary by Stormy Daniels or her lawyer, Mr. Avenatti, can truthfully characterize today's ruling in any other way than total victory for President Trump and total defeat for Stormy Daniels. We'll get reaction as we get it here on Fox.
Let's see. Who is it that does that sound? It's on a TV show. I think it's a cartoon show, but I can't remember who that is. This is another story. This is from, and I'm full of positive stories that you're not getting. This is from mysanantonio.com. Democrats fear lackluster Latino support could undercut bid for Congress. Uh-oh. Let's see. If I had a producer, you would have heard something similar. Undercuts a bid for Congress. But, of course, I don't have a producer, and that's not what you heard. Democrats are worried about Latino voters in the midterms, fearing that weak efforts to energize a core element of their base could imperil their bid to win control of Congress in next month's elections. From the Sunbelt battlegrounds of Nevada and Arizona to sprawling turf wars in Texas and Arizona and Florida, there are signs that the Hispanic vote, which party leaders have long hoped would be the foundation of future electoral success, has yet to flourish in their favor this year. Wait, wasn't this a gimme? Wasn't this the electoral base that they assumed was going to be there from now until perpetuity? Apparently, bad news. Oh, and I have good news. I have more good news. It's about 5 minutes to the top of the hour. 6 minutes if I'm looking over here. But that's okay, because it's bad news for this individual. I told you I was going to be going here. It's bad news for this guy, but it's good news for me, and it's good news for you as well. This happens to be from the Associated Press. Judge Michael Avenatti must pay $4.85 million in ex-lawyer's suit. Los Angeles. Porn actress Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Michael Avenatti, must pay $4.85 million to an attorney who worked at his former law firm. A California judge ruled last Monday in an order that holds the potential presidential candidate personally liable. In a lawsuit over back pay, the Los Angeles judge ordered the payout the same day. A separate ruling coming down. Okay, I'm about to Bigfoot myself over this. Let's go over to the next article, because again, this is so glorious. I'm loving the hell out of it. This is why this is a happy story. Now this is, again, from the WashingtonExaminer.com. Dave says maybe he could get a loan from Vivid Video. Okay, I'm Bigfooting myself. I happen to know that Vivid Video makes porn videos, and Michael Avenatti represents the porn stars. Very nice. Nice insight, Dave. Well played. Well played. This is from the WashingtonExaminer.com. Avenatti's bad day. Evicted from his office. You goober. Evicted from his office. Porn star lawyer Michael Avenatti suffered 2 court losses last Monday, including one that saw a judge order him to pay that $4.85 million I told you about, who argued that he was underpaid. Well, let's see. If you got to ask this question, right? If Avenatti screws his staff, ... Stormy Daniels, ... I'm sure you can connect those dots. Shortly after that ruling from a California judge, another judge ruled that Avenatti and his staff must be evicted from their suite office at Fashion Island Mall after they missed 4 months' worth of rent payments. You can't write this shit. The law firm, this is important too. The law firm, Avenatti's law firm, was previously ordered to pay $10 million But the $4.85 million owed by Avenatti is the first time he's being held personally liable in the case, in any case at all. Again, I'm loving that. And this is going to be my very last story. You may have seen, and I certainly did, in social media, because it's my job to watch social media and pick up stuff that I need to let you guys know about. There was a video which came out where an Oregon guy screamed at what she said was a 9/11 widow. And this guy was stupid. This guy was dangerous stupid. And it was caught all on video. The headline here is, Oregon man who screamed at 9/11 widow just got canned by his employer. The deranged Oregon leftist caught on camera last weekend telling a 9/11 widow that her husband should rot in the grave received walking papers from his job over the weekend, meaning he's now unemployed and probably without an income source. Quote, Steve Wilson is no longer an employee of SEI. His behavior does not represent the values of our organization or the high expectations that we have for our employees, the youth development organization Self-Enhancement Incorporated announced on Saturday via Twitter. Is that anything like karma?
Monsieur has been locked!
Well, yeah, it is. I had a great time tonight. Telling you the good stories that are out there. Don't get disappointed. Deeds, not words. I am guardedly, cautiously optimistic. And you need to be too. It's not impossible. We can pull this out. Democrats don't win elections. Republicans lose them. This election is ours to lose. So it's all about mindset. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. That's my meme. That's my story. And I'm sticking to it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. Thanks to Brandon Straka for being here tonight and giving me another full half hour of his time when he is tired, he is exhausted, and he's got so much to do over the weekend. Speaking of the weekend, folks, have a great weekend. Enjoy it. Come back next Tuesday. Tom Payne, Mike Moore will be here. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob. Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.